All right, let's call to order the Sparks City Council meeting for October 25th, 2021 with the roll call. Madam Clerk.
Mayor Lawson.
Here.
Council members Abbott.
Here.
Vanderwell. Here. Anderson.
Here.
Bybee.
Here.
Dare.
Here.
City Attorney Adams.
Here.
City Manager Cruz.
Here.
We have a quorum, thank you.
All right, let's move on to our invocation speaker, Pastor Barb West. And then we'll have the pledge right after that.
Would you all join with me in prayer? Our Heavenly Father, we are so thankful for the rain that you have given to us. And more than that, we're even thankful for this great city that we call home, Sparks, Nevada. Lord, we're thankful too for Mayor Ed Lawson and pray that you would bless him and our super city council members. We're just so blessed to have all of these great leaders. We pray that you will continue to give them wisdom as they lead our city. And Lord, today we would ask a special blessing upon Marcy Cooper Smith, who does so much for all of us. And we pray that you will continue to give her the energy that she does and continue to give her the joy of the work at her hands. Thank you, Lord, for this great woman as we honor her today. Lord, we pray that you would bless our police chief and our fire chief and all of our first responders. How thankful we are for those men and women who protect us day in and day out. Hear our prayer, Lord, in Jesus' name, amen.
Amen. Thank you, Barb. Marcy doesn't need any more energy. Let's be clear about that. Mr. Anderson, will you lead us in the pledge?
Please join me in the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Okay. Madam Clerk, do we have any public comment?
Mr. Mayor, we did receive one emailed public comment. It is attached to the agenda and it was in opposition to removal of the traffic notification system.
Thank you. Okay, anyone in the public wishing to make a comment at this time? Seeing none, we'll bring it back to the dais and move on to our agenda. Looking for an approval of the agenda. Which screen I'm supposed to be in? Ms. Vanderwell.
I move to approve the agenda.
Ms. Bybee.
I second to approve it as submitted.
Okay, I got a motion and a second. Any further discussion? Seeing none, please vote. Motion carries unanimously. Thank you. Minutes. Consideration possible approval of the minutes of Sparks City Council meeting for October 11th, 2021. Mr. Anderson.
I move to approve the meetings minutes from the Sparks City Council meeting on October 11th, 2021.
Mr. Dare.
Second.
Okay, got a motion and a second. Any further discussion? Seeing none, please vote. Motion carries unanimously. And now, the reason why we're all here today. Well, not yet. I'm just messing with you, Marcy. I'm going to move you to the last item of the day. No. Let's do our boards and commission vacancy announcements. Mr. Cruz.
Good afternoon, Mayor Lawson and members of the City Council. For the record, Neil Cruz, your city manager, here to announce vacancies across two of our committees. The first one is we have 7 vacancies on our newly created Sparks Equity and Inclusion Advisory Board. The board members must reside within the city of Sparks. Initial terms will either be for 3 or 4 years, and that will be determined upon appointment. Applications for all 7 of these positions will be accepted until Friday, November 26th at 5 p.m. The second board or committee that we're looking for is the Arts and Culture Advisory Committee. There are 2 vacancies on the Sparks Arts and Culture Advisory Committee, each for 2-year terms ending November 30th of 2023. 1 vacancy is for a representative of the visual arts, and 1 vacancy is for a representative of the performing arts. Applications for these 2 vacancies will be accepted until October 28th at 5 p.m. Anybody interested in applying for any of these positions, should complete a community service application most easily found at the city's website, www.cityofsparks.us/getinvolved. Once you're there, click on volunteering for a Sparks board, commission, or committee and hit submit. Thank you.
Thank you. All right, let's move on to 7.3, proclamation, Marcy Coopersmith Day. Marcy, come on down here and sit in one of these chairs for me, please. And Mr. Abbott has a proclamation for you.
I do. Whereas Marcy Coopersmith is a City of Sparks resident who has consistently gone above and beyond the call of duty in her volunteer work with local senior citizens. And whereas Marcy's commitment to serving the people of the City of Sparks and surrounding communities made her an excellent candidate for the Nevada Senior Citizen of the Year Award. And whereas Marcy has been an advocate for seniors in the Reno and Sparks community for many years, was instrumental to the foundation of the Sparks Senior Citizens Advisory Committee, also the SSCAC, can consistently be relied upon to provide guidance regarding how to best serve the seniors in the area, and has earned the respect and support of countless leaders in our community. And whereas Marcy has also served as the secretary for the Senior Coalition of Washoe County, board member for the Friends of Washoe County Library, an ambassador, council member of Senior Outreach Services, an affiliate of the Stanford Center for Aging at the University of Nevada, Reno, previous vice chair for the City of Reno Senior Citizen Advisory Committee, and previously a member of the Washoe County Senior Advisory Committee. And whereas Marcy is not only a generous giver of her time and talent, but she also brings joy to every occasion. Her contagious smile instantly lights up any room, and she is truly one of a kind and gets things done. And whereas the City of Sparks congratulates Marcy on becoming the 2020 Nevada Senior Citizen of the Year and thanks her for all the great work she does for our community as a whole. Now, therefore, on behalf of Mayor Ed Lawson, Mayor City of Sparks, Nevada, we do hereby proclaim October 25th, 2021 as Marcy Coopersmith Day.
So go ahead, Marcy, say a few words if you can do that.
Okay. Do I hit this or?
Nope, you just speak.
Do you know, I think I'm more nervous today than I was at the award ceremony. I cannot believe members from the Reno Senior Advisory Committee are here, the Washoe County Senior Advisory Board are here, the Sparks Senior Citizen Advisory Committee are here. I don't know, I'm speechless. I really, really am. I know it's hard to believe. And this was all Councilmember Abbott's doing. He and Mayor Lawson got together, and Mayor Lawson received an email about this nomination and sent it on to Councilmember Abbott. Next thing I know, Marcy, we're nominating you, and it went from there. And I can't even, the letters that I got, every single member of the Sparks City Council, the mayor, various others, just unbelievable. And I just don't know what to say. And as long as seniors can be heard, I'm going to be out there and make sure that they are heard. I have a big enough mouth, and I will keep doing it. So to seniors, thank you so much.
Thank you, Marcy. Now, we're going to ask if you'll, Marcy, if you'll come up front here with us on the dais. We'll get some pictures taken, and then we're going to adjourn for 10 minutes and feed you all your afternoon sugar.
Be in order? You need me in order?
You're fine.
Okay.
Quick.
Okay, here we go.
One without mask?
Very sexy with the mask, right? What's underneath?
I'll do one without.
Everybody hold their breath.
Pretend you're sitting down.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Oh, thank you.
Good job.
All right. With that, then,
Can I say a few words?
Yep, okay.
Sorry.
Go right ahead.
And then when Councilman Becerra came up, oh my God.
Okay, so we're adjourned?
I was gonna say a few
Not
words
yet.
real quick.
Donald's gonna tell us real quick, this,
If I can, so Marcy, you're definitely well deserving. I do want to give a shout out to Councilman Dare, who was in Vegas for a reunion for his high school, and we were able to come over and surprise you. We obviously knew you won a little bit earlier than you did, and so shout out to you, Christopher, for going down and making it even more special. When Marcy called me that night at like 10:30. She didn't speak English. There were other words. Like I knew she won, but I just wouldn't have known that if I didn't know that earlier. So thank you for doing all that you do for our community, Marcy. We all appreciate it. And there's no one else. When Lawson called me and asked who should we nominate, it was Marcy. It was an instantaneous. There was no one else. No offense. There's a lot of great people. You guys are doing a lot of great work, but Marcy is definitely a rock star. So thank you.
and I believe this is the first time in the history of this award being given, it's gone to someone from the north, and then even better, it came from the city of Sparks. So thank you,
Yep.
Marcy, for representing. Anyone else on the council want to say anything? Yes, Ms. Bybee.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I was so excited to write a letter for you, and it was so easy because Marcy, I'll never forget when I first met her, she came here before Chambers. Mayor Martinez is sitting here, and you were all excited about, we've got to have a senior citizen advisory committee in Sparks. We don't have one, we need one. And she was just this pistol that came in and wanted to do it. And Gino said to her, he goes, well, there's only one problem. And she said, what? And he said, you can't do it because you're not a senior. She just, her energy is contagious, just such a great representative of those of us who are in the Senior Citizen Committee in this community. And energy is contagious. And you know what? In the times that we're in, especially these last 18 months, to find positivity, to find someone that still is just, makes you feel good and just spreads that energy is just something so priceless. And so congratulations, and we are so lucky to have you.
Mr. Dare.
I tell you, it was definitely an honor to be able to be there, and we had to keep telling her to breathe, actually. She was on stage like just kind of, oh, but it was pretty awesome. Everyone there was so excited. I just like to say we do a lot of work in our community, in our region, and it's sometimes frustrating because there's some really interesting things going on, difficult things going on, and Marcy's in the middle of a lot of these trying to help, but she always finds a positive way to come and help get things done. Let that be an example to all of us. Anybody out there listening, the million people, that's the best way to get things done, is the positive attitude, coming in ready to be helped. Because a lot of people also give ideas, but then run away. Hey, you should do this, and then they leave. Marcy has ideas, and she sits in it, and she stays in it, and she helps get it done. We appreciate you so much. Thank you.
Thanks, Marcy. Anyone else? Okay. Well, with that, we're going to take a 15-minute recess and go eat some of that cake. Move on to item 7.4, Extra Mile Day proclamation. Mr. Anderson.
All right. So along the lines of what we just heard about Marcy and the work she does and all of the other teams that we have, the volunteers, this is a way to honor those people and thank them for going the extra mile. So whereas the City of Sparks acknowledges that a special vibrancy exists in the community when its citizens collectively go the extra mile in personal effort, volunteerism, and service. And whereas the City of Sparks encourages the citizens to maximize their personal contribution by giving of themselves wholeheartedly and with the total commitment and conviction to their family, friends, and community. And whereas the City of Sparks chooses to shine a light on and celebrate individuals and organizations within its community who go the extra mile in order to make a difference and lift up fellow members of our community. And whereas the City of Sparks acknowledges the mission of Extra Mile America to create 500 extra miles cities in America and is proud to support Extra Mile Day on November 1st, 2021. Now therefore, Ed Lawson, Mayor of Sparks, do hereby proclaim November 1st, 2021 as Extra Mile Day and urge each person in the community to take time on this day to not only go the extra mile in his or her own life, but to also acknowledge all those who are inspirational in their efforts and commitment to make their organizations, families, community, country, and world a better place.
Okay. Do we have anybody here to accept this proclamation? I didn't hear about one, so okay, thank you. We'll move on to 7.5, Proclamation Alpha One Awareness Month. Ms. Vanderwell.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Whereas Alpha 1 antitrypsin, deficiency Alpha 1 is one of the most common and serious hereditary disorders in the world and can result in life-threatening lung disease in adults and liver disease in both children and adults. And whereas Alpha 1 has been identified in nearly all populations and ethnic groups, it is estimated that about 1 in every 25 Americans have Alpha 1, and up to 6% of Caucasians in the U.S. carry a single deficient gene and may pass the gene on to their children. And whereas Alpha 1 is wildly underdiagnosed and misdiagnosed, fewer than 10% of those predicted to have Alpha 1 have been diagnosed, and it takes an average of 5 doctors and 7 years from the time symptoms appear before an accurate diagnosis is made. And whereas Alpha 1 can be accurately diagnosed using a simple blood test, and whereas it is important to increase awareness and detection of this serious hereditary and misdiagnosed disorder to enable appropriate treatment, and whereas during the month of November, a nationwide awareness campaign will take place to educate the public as well as the medical community on Alpha 1 detection and treatment for those affected by this condition. Now, therefore, I, Ed Lawson, Mayor of the City of Sparks, do hereby proclaim November 2021 as Alpha 1 Awareness Month.
Do we have anyone here to accept this?
Perfect.
Thank you for doing that. We appreciate that. I've got some flyers, which you probably got the last time we were actually able to be here as real-life people. I know Don knows about it because he was at the Griffel Center with us. Christopher, I think you're my rep, and you've seen us before. This is such a huge, huge problem in this country. There's so many little tiny diseases that people don't know they have. If you've ever smoked in your life, it'll take 7 years before a doctor finds out you've actually got this and diagnoses it properly. My husband smoked, unfortunately, so they told him he had asthma. He's now down to 30% lung function, which is why he's not even in this building. We don't go into buildings until this is, God forbid, hopefully someday over when we can get together again. Most of our group, we've been meeting on Zoom for 2 years. This is really, really vital. We've got a national conference we did on Zoom again this last year. We'll probably do it again next year. It's just every pulmonologist, every doctor, if you know anybody who's got any problems, who's on oxygen, it's a simple blood test, and it can be totally anonymous because insurance is still an issue in this country.
So you don't have to, with your kids, anybody else, you can find out, you know what's there, you can get them treated without being stigmatized. It's just, I appreciate the information, getting it in the newspaper, getting it to people, getting it to your friends, talking to anybody you possibly can. We need to get this thing taken care of. Hopefully, one of the doctors who's our age thinks before he retires or dies, well, may be able to cure it. CRISPR and some of the other stem cell things they're playing with, maybe we can get it. But until then, everything we can to get the word out so we get oxygen and we get drugs and we get people doing what they need to and keep my husband alive for a few more years, so.
Will you give us
Appreciate
your
it.
name for the record, please?
Right. Thank you very much.
Will you give us your name for the record, please?
Norma Leising, Leising.
Thank you, Norma. Appreciate it. Any questions from the council? Okay. We're going to take a picture, if you wouldn't mind stepping up over here. Ms. Vanderwell will. Thank you. All right. Moving on to item 7.6, presentation by the Nevada Department of Transportation.
Good afternoon, everybody.
Good afternoon.
Lawson, city council members. And for the record, Rod Schelling, Chief Traffic Operations Engineer for the Nevada Department of Transportation. Let me see if I can pull this up.
I didn't get your name, I'm sorry. Say it again.
Rod Schelling.
Hi, Todd.
Yeah.
Find that, move that mic a little closer to your face.
Okay. Is that?
Everybody sounds muffled.
Is it coming up for you guys, or does it not show up? Is that how that works? Oh, okay. All right, thank you again. So what I'm doing is doing an update today in regards to the District 2 North advanced signal warning system changes that are going to be in effect. So a little overview of an advanced signal warning system. What they're used to do is alert drivers when there's certain treatments that are necessary to provide that specific advance notice for a signalized intersection. And I'll talk about what those specifics are in the next slide. So typically what you'll see though in an advanced signal warning system is they include the yellow signs. You know, you've seen them out there. They're along Pyramid Highway. So in this instance here, what I'm showing you is the prepare to stop when flashing. That is the current system that's out there, and they'll have the yellow flashing lights to warn of a traffic signal ahead. Is it going to advance? No, it's not advancing. Let's see. It's not going down. And enter. Okay, thank you very much. Okay, and so some of those considerations that I was talking about earlier, what we've done is done an update to our statewide guidance. And the way that is, when you look at those, is like limited sight distance. That's one of the things that we do, and that's per the Manual of Uniform Traffic Control Devices. So that's where we went through and we updated that to align with the Manual of Uniform Traffic Control Devices, the most current edition. In addition to that, also what we call the Institute of Transportation Engineers, the Signal Timing Book. So we've updated everything in alignment with that. It also takes into consideration where you have isolated or unexpected intersections. Typically, it's like where you're coming from a rural to an urban situation, and it would be the first traffic signal in that area where you come in from that transition. Also in consideration is high-speed facilities. And also, of course, you take into account engineering judgment. And the goal with what we're trying to achieve here with the advanced signal warning system changes is to develop that unified approach. And we did that statewide. So we reached out to all of our stakeholders, all of our local jurisdictions. We had all of those sitting with us to come up with this statewide guidance. And the idea is to promote that uniformity and consistency in the treatment of all advanced signal warning systems that are specific, just like I was talking about in that earlier slide, to those intersections for those individual needs. The idea too is to enhance the safety of the traveling public. And the biggest thing to take away from this is you want to promote better driver behavior. That's the key takeaway in this. Similar modifications in other states have shown that reduction in the crashes, including severity. And we all know that speed is a factor when it comes to severity of crashes. And so from that too, is the drivers that run the red light. So you want to try to make sure that you're not promoting bad behavior for that driver to beat the light. Here's a look at the Reno Sparks area. So this is the District 2 North project that we're getting ready to make the changes on. We have 9 intersections that are part of the city of Sparks, and there's 4 for the city of Reno. And I'll go through and kind of do a blow-up view of these and, for the city of Sparks along Pyramid Way. And then there's one also that's J, and you see that, that's at Veterans Parkway and Gregg Street. And so I'll kind of talk about each of these as you go through from the north on Pyramid at Cala de la Plata, and you work your way south all the way down to Queen and Far Way. So we have those 9 locations that we're going to be focusing on. When we do this, and I'll talk on each one of these. So at Cala de la Plata, what's going to happen there is in the northbound direction, that passive system, which is where you see the 24/7 flash, that will be removed. Now, I was talking about where there are the isolated or unexpected. So the first in the series in the southbound direction, that will remain. So we're not removing all systems, that will remain. And as you work your way down at Edge Parkway and then the next B, C, D, E, and F, all the way down to Los Altos Parkway, both in the northbound and southbound direction, those systems will be eliminated. You will still have the signal, but you will not have the advanced signal warning system for the prepare to stop. Reason is we went through and we did our field locations with those with the updated guidance, and we looked at those for sight distance and everything associated with that, and they meet the current manual of uniform traffic control devices and no longer requires that advanced signal warning systems. When you get into K and G, that's at Disk Drive. As you're going southbound, G will be eliminated because you have plenty of sight distance, but at K in the northbound direction, we're going to realign that advanced signal warning system further up on the crest. So that makes sense with the limited sight distance that you move that to allow better sight visibility for that advanced signal warning system. It will remain active. It will still be the same system that's out there today. However, what we're going to do is reposition it to allow for better sight distance and also accommodate for that cue for the right turn movements there, and then also adjust that timing like I was talking about earlier with the ITE standard. And as you come a little further south at Queen Far, that one will remain and is just going to be adjustments to the signal timing. And where you see J at the Veterans Parkway and Gregg, that will be eliminated. Here's the schedule that we're talking about for the project schedule on this. We began this whole process in 2019. We utilized on-call support to help us develop our guidance. Like I said, we reached out to all of the local jurisdictions, and this is statewide, to develop our updated guidance. Spring, summer of 2022, on the District 2 North project, that's when construction will begin. We're anticipating that the completion for the construction will be later in that year of 2022, and we will always continue to do our engineering review of these systems statewide. Here's a little bit more on the follow-up to that update. So like I was mentioning, we're going to do the construction beginning in spring, summer of 2022 for the District 2 North project. Throughout the rest of the state, District 2 South, which includes Carson City and the Douglas County area, District 1, which is Clark County and Las Vegas area, and District 3, the northeastern Nevada with the Elko area, all have been complete to date. To stay connected, we still have our communications portal. There's the website for nevadasafesignals.com. There's a toolkit that has a lot of the frequently asked questions. That's still available for everybody if there's anybody that has questions. There's fact sheets for each of the district projects, like I was talking about, D1, D2, North, South, and D3. They're still there. There's a video that will walk you through on how the advanced signal warning systems are designed to help promote better driver behavior. There's a hotline at 775-888-7000, and also our email through our customer service portal at info@dot.nv.gov. I'm going to talk about specifically the District 2 North project. This one's going to go a little bit differently. We've done some further evaluation. We worked with our local agency partner, and we're going to do a decommissioning plan. Where there are other projects throughout the state, we did not go through that process. We did our typical delivery where we did the advanced notifications, but we did not do the different staging that we're going to do on this project here. The reason we're doing this phased approach, we feel it is the best approach for this area where we have the higher proliferation of these advanced signal warning systems. So you're going to go into stage 2. We're going to go with our contractor. We're going to put them in the passive mode. We're going to remove that prepare to stop when flashing sign and put the signal ahead sign and then have it flash 24/7. There's going to be a transition period of 30 days to allow the motorists to observe that change in that traffic pattern ahead. We're going to have our contractor mobilize again, come back, and remove those flashing beacons, and then do another transition period for 30 days to allow the motorists again to observe that change in the traffic pattern ahead. And then in the final stage, we're going to have our contractor come back out and remove the rest of the system. Now, we're going to still work with the local agency. In some of those cases, some of those signal poles will remain because they'll have video detection systems on them that they want for, that advanced detection system. So that will remain in certain cases. Some of the project successes to date, after decommissioning was carried out in District 2 South, there has been no crashes reported at any of the removal locations. We're also, we worked with RTC of Washoe, and there was a research conducted through the University of Nevada, Reno, where they used LiDAR and specific at the Cala de la Plata location, and that's where they have a passive system. And from that study, it was concluded that there was no near crashes found with that data. And that was completed in October of 2020. In addition to that, we have our customer service portal that I was talking about. When we started doing this in 2020, there was inquiries that we looked at in November. There was a total of 19. As of last August, those inquiries have subsided significantly to only 2. And again, what I'd like to talk about, and this is kind of going back to the whole system in itself, when you have plenty line of sight and that signal is clearly visible, with that current system where it's showing and it has the flash for the prepare to stop when flashing on the onset of the yellow, it promotes drivers to speed up. That's what we're here to correct, is the driver behavior. This is the appropriate mitigation where that specific limited sight distance is obstructed. That makes sense as to where you place that. So clean, far, and disc. This makes good sense. You're on a vertical crest, you're on a horizontal curve, you're coming around, and that makes sense. That's where drivers slow down. And I want to thank you.
Questions from the council? Mr. Dare?
Yes, Todd, it's nice to meet you. I don't think we ever had a chance to meet. This is a conversation we had a couple of years ago with some of your people, and I think, and I only can speak for myself fully because I don't think you guys ever brought it before us. You ended up just choosing to wait and do some more work on this, but I know I brought it up quite poignantly on a few notes. I don't think it's a good idea. I hear what you have to say. I don't think anything's changed on what you've said. I think you actually decided to leave a couple that you weren't going to last time. It's the only thing different. But I do have a few questions that I just want to point out and things that are important for you to hear. I kind of think I understand that this is your road, but it's in our city and my ward, and I have a responsibility as city councilman for the people driving there. I know that I've spoken quite poignantly to Von Hartung, the commissioner over there as well, and I think you know this, he does not like this either. So I think it's interesting when we say you've reached out to all the local people. Obviously, it must have been everybody but us because we don't agree with it. So I just want you to know that. As we sit back and look at this, I'm watching, and am I right? You're gonna leave two of those warning out of 9? Is that the idea of what I've heard?
2, which is going to be Queen Far in the southbound, and then the northbound, it'll be Disc.
Okay.
And then you also have the first in the series in the southbound at Cala de la Plata.
So you said
There's
first
3.
series, but those are just static lights that flash.
Those are permanently flashing 24/7.
They just say something's gonna happen.
They say
pay
signal ahead.
attention of some sort.
Correct.
Okay. I question the need for this, and I say this for you. You have a different responsibility than me. I get that. So this is no insult to you by any means. But as a state, I think, I appreciate you said that it's engineer's judgment on what you guys are doing. So someone somewhere is making a judgment to what should happen here, but you're not listening to us. And so for us, we're saying, no, we like what we have. There's no reason to change what's working. We don't have a crazy amount of accidents here that are causing problems. Now, if there was, actually, we want to solve a problem. And I'd stand up with you, actually, and say, we have a problem. But right now, you're coming saying, this is going to fix a problem that's not a problem, which is interesting to me. Now, you might have these problems in Vegas. I'm from Vegas, and maybe we drive better. I'm not sure, but I don't think so. But I'm saying, across the board, you're trying to put a cookie-cutter thing across the state and asking us to stay okay with it, and I'm not. And I think what we have has been trained to our people for a long time. So I just want you to hear that. I think, like I said, I have a kind of a list full of a lot of different questions that I'm interested in, but I know for a fact that even our own fire station out from the Truckee Meadows asked you to put a new one in because they couldn't stop in time. Now, the answer from INDOT at the time was, well, they have a button they could have done, it must have been user error or something, is pretty much what was told to me. I can tell you there's a letter on record, them asking for something out on Calle La Plata, not one of your flashing lights, but actually a warning so they could slow down because it's hard for them to stop in time with all the heaviness of that truck.
Can I answer that question?
Oh, please.
Yeah, and for the record, Rod Schilling. So this is Truckee Meadows Fire Department, correct?
Yeah.
That presented that concern. Well, ironically, if they're en route and for a response to an action, then they put their sirens on, correct? And with that, there's what they call the Opticom. So the Opticom puts out an emitter, and every signal with these first responders gets the free green. So I'm not understanding their concern. Their concern should be driving the signal and not the fact that they're sitting and waiting on the response of that advanced signal, because you should always drive the signal. If they're en route to a response to an action, then they get the free green. They don't have to wait if they're in response.
I think it also gives an example, though, of a truck or anything else that's heavy that do not have that.
But
And now, with
concur.
that said, I'm not here.
But doesn't that motorist,
Can I
when they
finish what I'm
take that
saying?
license, sir?
Can I finish what I'm saying?
Yes,
So you
sir.
get what I'm saying?
Yes,
Thank
sir.
you. So what I'm trying to say is that, one, is I'm not here to question the fire department, why they put that in there. I didn't ask them to write that. They wrote that because they wanted to. So it's not, they didn't make it up. It is a problem, and it's something they asked for. So obviously, there was an issue. You can ask them why they wrote that, but I can tell you, they're asking for something that helps them. And we have fire trucks on that thing all the time. But I am concerned about other things that are that heavy in the same note. So they don't get the same option. And I get that we want as safe roads as we can. This seems to be the opposite of what you do, at least for a time, because we'd be changing behavior. And you're saying it doesn't hurt it didn't hurt anybody somewhere else. But I can tell you, these roads, this is a regular thing that we have had. It just seems like I don't understand the need for it. But I also think it's risky, and I actually personally, I don't know how you can get me there. Not that maybe it doesn't matter, but because it's your road. But for me, I think you would want us to be involved and to be supportive. So those are my thoughts, my questions, and I'd ask for you guys to reconsider. And so that's my thought.
Anyone else? Ms. Bybee?
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Yeah, I've got some concerns as well, and some questions to start with. So on your 6 stages, stage 2, you're going to put the current ASWS in a passive mode, which means a constant flashing.
That is correct.
Okay, so will it still say signal
It will have
ahead?
That signal sign right there, which is a signal ahead sign.
Okay, so
that
not the
warning
current,
sign
not
right
the,
there where you see the red, yellow, green.
yeah.
So that is a signal.
So those
ahead
are all
sign.
new because that's not what's currently there right now.
Correct. What's currently there is that prepare to stop.
Prepare to stop, okay, so those prepare to stop is gone.
Correct.
And these will replace it and be passive mode, which means they will be continually flashing. When you get to stage 4, you'll remove the flashing beacons and still have the signs that show a light ahead.
Correct.
I guess knowing historically, because I've lived pretty much the majority of my life here, and knowing actually when I was much younger, Pyramid Highway has been a death trap for forever, you know, and unfortunately through the years, the amount of accidents because of the speed. So my concern is with the speed on Pyramid Highway, even with all the traffic we have on it now, does that not qualify it for not removing these because one of your criteria was high speed? And for sure, and yeah, or do we have some visibility? And I appreciate that you're going to keep it in disc at the 2 locations because there is limited sight distance there. But does high speed not consider, would that not be considered? And could the flashing beacons be gone, but simply the sign that warns people, reminds them there's an intersection coming up? Or is it a matter of cost? I mean, is this being done cost related, or does it truly have the data showing that it supports it from a safety and crash? And from the safety perspective, is there data supporting this to increase safety? Because that's my prime concern is safety of my residents, not just my ward, because my ward's part of that, but the city and the region.
Yeah, Madam Bybee, again, Rod Schilling for the record. Yes, every one of these intersections, all statewide, we went through and we did evaluations at every one of these signalized intersections, and we've developed a field checklist that takes into account all of those items that you're talking about, the sight distance, you know, the speed for the facility, the crashes, and we looked at those, and that's how we came in with these final, you know, updates to this signalized corridor. So yes, we did take those into consideration, and actually from some of the other outreach and other states that have done similar to this, you'll find that the speeds actually are reduced because just like I showed you in that last slide, when the drivers actually, with the correct behavior, drive the signal, they tend to slow down versus the other way. When they see the advanced signal warning, they know that they have, you know, that time to get through there, and they usually speed up. So there's always a decrease in the speed. So that, to me, is severity, and speed is a factor along that corridor, just like you're talking about. So that's a safety concern, speed. You know, so that's one of our number 1 goals and objectives is to sit there and, you know, make sure that this is safe and make sure that the drivers drive the corridor with the correct behavior. And we're seeing that. That's why I was showing you, like statewide, it has proven to be very successful, you know. And I understand your concerns, and we do take those into consideration. You know, we don't take this lightly. Safety is a major factor for us too at the department. You know, so we will continue to evaluate. We're here to promote safety, and we want to make sure that the motorists drive that corridor correctly. They do have plenty of sight distance. You don't see these on other areas where you have a prepare to stop for every signal, correct? You don't have them throughout, you know, the rest of the state or the rest of the nation, you know, so you need to put the proper mitigation that is specific to that signalized intersection, and that's what we're doing.
Thank you. I appreciate your answers. And I guess my only other question would be during the transition period on stage 3, and actually more the transition after you remove the flashing beacons and during stage 5 transition, if you find, because especially people who've been out there driving it a long time are just so, you know, so used to seeing those, and that does affect their driving behavior. If we saw an increase in accidents, would there be a reason for just, if nothing else, the signs to come up without the beacons reminding people that there's a signal there? Is transition just to wait so people get used to it? Or will you be analyzing any accident and traffic data in making your decision?
Yes, Madam Bybee. Again, Rod Schilling for the record. Yes, we're going to be doing an evaluation as well. You know, so we're very similar to what the university did there. We're going to utilize their services as well. So we're going to do a before and after as well through this corridor. We want to ensure that the safe
is a priority along these corridors. So we're also doing this transition period to allow the motorists, just like we're saying, giving them that 30 days. We typically don't do this, like I was saying in the previous projects. We just went out, we do a typical 14-day advance notification. We do the change, and we did that statewide, and we've had 0 concerns to date. But in this case, because I think you have a higher proliferation of those along this corridor, we want to make sure that we're working with our local agencies, which is the City of Sparks Traffic Engineering section, and to make sure that we do this in alignment with our partner.
Okay, thank you.
Anyone else? Mr. Abbott?
On the slide, can you go back to slide 5? The map of everything?
This one here or this one?
That one right there. Is there a way we can look to see like the criteria that was formed on each, like if I pull up E, I can see was speeding a problem there, or is it accident based, or what the scoring criteria to get there? Is it?
Yeah, hang on. So our build checklist, we can probably get that data. Yeah, we can get that data for
Okay.
you guys.
Then I guess, so that would list if at intersection F, we have 8 accidents a month. I'm just saying a number, like that would be on that checklist or something?
That's correct. We
Okay.
take safety into consideration. So we'd get you the checklist of when we went through these.
All right.
And that's, same thing in that's how we looked at, K, which is, this to realign that to make sure that there was plenty of sight distance.
Got it. All right, thank you.
Yes, sir.
Anyone else? Mr. Anderson?
Yeah, I actually have a question for our staff. I'm just wanting to make sure that we were engaged in the conversations on this. The comment was made, all the stakeholders. I'm assuming that would probably be Ms. Souza?
Thank you. For the record, Amber Sosa, Transportation Manager. Yes, we've actively been engaged with NDOT since that early 2019 in developing their guidance for new installations of these type of warning systems. And we've been very upfront with NDOT that our concern was the public perception of actually implementing these on existing systems. And that was one of the main reasons inviting NDOT to present today.
Okay, anyone else?
I have one more question.
One more question.
Thank you. So are you here today just telling us what you're going to do, or are you asking us?
For the record, Rod Schilling, this is an update, informational only.
So are you I'm just asking, truthfully, I say that, we can go back and forth on conversation and things. I just want to know, is there any information from what we're taking, you're going to take and look at it, or you guys already decided what you're doing because you think?
We are moving forward with this project, as a construction project. We've already changed it multiple times from the different commission meetings as well, so that's why we went into the phased approach, through this. So we've done our RTC Washoe commission meetings and everything else. So this is the stage now where we've done the further evaluation, and then this is our recommendation to move forward with this 30-day phased approach.
That answers my question. Then you're here just to tell us what you want to do. And then, so secondly, then, when you made this decision, it would seem to me that you guys have a list of things you decided were important before you ever looked at what happened on these roads, and then afterwards you went and found information. Or did you see a problem on our roads, said, oh my, we need to fix this?
For the record, again, Rod Schilling, Traffic Operation, NDOT Traffic Operations. No, this was an update to our existing policy that was outdated, so we wanted to ensure that it was in alignment with the current manual of uniform traffic control devices and so forth.
So the way I would take that is that it didn't matter what we were doing on Pyramid, how many accidents there, what happened or not, because you guys have something across the state you're trying to get done.
Bordering on
Okay, sorry.
confrontational.
I'm not trying to.
I know you're passionate about it, and I get that. But
Okay. Well, please.
He's here to give us a presentation.
Okay, thank you, sir.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Anyone else? Okay, thank you very much.
Thank you.
Appreciate it. All right, let's move on to item 8, consent items. Anyone wish to take a consent item out of?
Mayor Lawson, we have a 7.8, a presentation from the RTC.
I was going to skip over those guys. All right, come on up, Bill. Sorry.
It's okay, we already had our cake, so we were ready to go.
Yeah, you got it all. You had your cake and ate it too.
This one right here, yes. Slideshow form.
Thank you.
Here you go. From the beginning?
From the beginning.
How's that?
All right.
Ready to go?
Yes, go ahead, sir.
Good afternoon, Mayor Lawson and council members. For the record, Bill Thomas, Executive Director, RTC Washoe. Also with me today are Brian Stewart, our Director of Engineering, and Dan Dunges, our Director of Planning. So I appreciate this opportunity to visit with you. My first day as the Director of RTC was in April of 2020. So everybody knows what was going on about that time. And I unfortunately am not had a chance to visit with you. So I do appreciate 18 months in now that I get a chance to do this. And it certainly is my goal to come as often as your city manager would invite me and your mayor to give you an update on what's going on at RTC Washoe. I will say that you're very well represented by your mayor, so even though you may not have as many in numbers as some of the other groups, you do have a very strong leader that's participating in our board. What I wanted to do today is to walk through some of our programs and projects, just to give you a snapshot of what we've got going on, and then certainly try to answer any questions that you may have. We have about $122 million worth of projects that I'm going to talk about today that are either in the city of Sparks or directly affect the city of Sparks. And since it's been a while, like I said earlier, I wanted to let you know what we've got going on. The first one I wanted to talk about is the TA Set-Aside Program, which is actually a federal highway program where the federal government allocates to us a certain amount of money each year. In this case, we have a little more than $800,000, which we represent both fiscal years 21 and 22. This program, as you can see, is limited in terms of who it can go to. It's not a traditional RTC funding method nor cycle. It can only go to the agencies that you see listed here. We did put out a request for projects, and I believe the city of Sparks submitted 2. The good thing is with the little more than 800,000 we have for those 2 years, that it looks like we'll be able to fund all the projects that were submitted. Certainly, if you have questions about those 2 projects, your staff probably would be best suited to explain them since they submitted them, but things are looking good in terms of our ability to fund all the projects that were applied for. Second thing I wanted to talk about is the Regional Roadway Impact Fee Program. For those of you who aren't familiar with it, this has been around for many years, and essentially it's a, for lack of a better description, a charge against new development. It only applies when people pull building permits for new construction. And every 3 to 4 years, we are required by state law to update the program. And so we're coming through now with the updated program. I believe we went to your planning commission last week and presented to them. We'll also be presenting to the Reno Planning Commission and the Washoe County Planning Commission. And ultimately, as you can see here, either next month or in December, we'll be bringing it back to you because the implementing ordinance is provided in each of the 3 jurisdictions. So the city of Sparks will actually have to take an action to make these changes happen. Very simply, in terms of what the changes are here, which is based on analysis of the projects that we see happening in the next 10 years in all the jurisdictions, you can see that the North District, which is mostly where Sparks jurisdiction is, you have a little bit of, I think your jurisdiction is in the South District, south of I-80. You can see here that the single-family rate is going up a little more than 6% in the north and a little more than 5% in the south, and then correspondingly that 3+ units is what you would consider multifamily. We will, of course, have a much more detailed presentation to you when the ordinance comes through, which will be submitted at the time of that hearing, but I just did want to let you know that this is on its way and you'll be seeing very shortly. Another program that's very important to us, and I assume is to you, is our pavement preservation program for regional roads.
And this program consists of a series of projects that are identified by the 3 jurisdictions working with RTC to prioritize and select those areas in our community where we can get the most literally bang for the buck. In other words, it's an analysis that tells us if we put money into preserving roads, can we save money in the long term in terms of roads that might otherwise fall apart. So very important in terms of maintaining the network. And as you can see, we try to hit about 200 lane miles in the region each year. Specifically in Sparks, the big project that we'll be doing in this program is 4th Street from Green Bay to Galt. And that project, while it's in design right now, anticipated that it'll be completed in 2023. And you can see here the scale of that particular project. Perhaps the biggest project that we have going in the near term is the Audie Wells corridor project. That one has been out to bid, and actually we awarded the bid to Granite Construction. They are working right now on utilities, and you'll probably see weather cooperating in the next month, some work started on utilities, which is the first step in terms of moving this project forward. We've got it planned, working with your staff and the City of Reno staff, to be done over a 3-year period, in great part to limit the impacts to the businesses, which obviously will be felt as we're in here doing this significant work. But we also will be watching what the costs are, and there may or may not be some adjustments to that schedule based on what we find as this project moves forward. As far as Pyramid Highway, we successfully last year got a grant from the federal government through the Build Transportation Grant Program. It was a $23 million grant to our community, which was very welcomed, and allow us to start moving forward on this project. This is a project where NDOT, because it's an NDOT road, working with RTC, NDOT will be the actual manager of the project. They're doing the design, they'll do the construction management. RTC is participating more in a funding role because we will be providing the balance of the funds for, as you can see here, a $54 million project. Design is anticipated the summer of next year, with construction occurring in 2022 to 23. So we will obviously be sharing with your staff, and I'm sure your staff will share with you progress as that important project moves forward. Another part of our efforts are transportation studies. These studies are typically identified either through public processes or issues that arise during the course of the evaluation of our transportation network. A fairly large project that we're started on is the McCarran Boulevard corridor study, which is the whole ring road of McCarran we're looking at. This is actually an NDOT study that we are handling on behalf of NDOT. And the idea is to look at it holistically and then zero in on particular things that we need to do or we can do in terms of future improvements along McCarran Boulevard. So certainly as this moves forward, there'll be opportunities for both the public and any of you might be interested. As always, reach out to me or any of our staff if you have specific questions, but you should see that coming out in your community in terms of desire to get public engagement. We recently completed the Lemon Valley to Spanish Springs connector alignment. That particular study started with about a dozen alignments to connect the two communities, and the 3 on this map are the 3 that we ended up with, and our board last month approved the final preliminary study. And the reason I say preliminary, because these are simply alignments. They haven't gone to detail in terms of design. We're quite a ways away from these physically being constructed. But as is always the case, we're trying to do some forward planning to look to the future and make sure that we've got our transportation network well planned. The next step for this particular project and these roads is to do a environmental process, which is fairly expensive and takes quite a bit of time. So that's kind of in the queue. We haven't been given the direction nor the funding to actually move to that step since this was recently completed. Just quickly, you can see from this the 3 routes. The yellow one is Lazy 5 over to Deodore. And then there's 2 routes that run through the Colony property, the blue routes there, one of them coming off of Eagle Canyon and the other off of Shawn Eva Road, both of which would connect into Chickadee. So again, these are the 3 alignments that were settled on in terms of the preferred alternatives without one being picked as of yet. As always, we look to address the growth in our community and provide for a transportation network that provides the capacity and relieves the congestion that we see as we grow as a community. Of particular importance, I'm sure, to all of you is Sparks Boulevard. And this project is well underway in terms of its design. As you can see, it's a fairly substantial project at close to $60 million. We're also very aware that as we do the pyramid improvements within DOT, that we're gonna have to be sensitive to the timing of this, such that Sparks Boulevard is not under construction the same time as Pyramid, or you probably will be getting a lot of phone calls.
You will be.
We will, yes. You do have my number, yes. I did want to mention
I'm
that.
happy to hand it out to
Yeah.
the council.
I did want to mention that one of the things we learned early on as we evaluated this project is there was a early start project that we felt we could do that would benefit the community, and that is to go ahead and move to a 6-lane facility south of I-80. And that particular project, which is about $5 million, we're looking at putting out very soon, and hopefully within the next year, completing that one. So we'll be doing some improvements on Sparks Boulevard south of Interstate 80 while we continue with the design and any right-of-way acquisitions that will be needed to complete the full widening. Another very active program that we're quite proud of is the traffic signalization analysis and improvements that we've been doing throughout the community. As you can see here, our goal is to go through all of the regional signals every 3 years. And the reason that's important is because communities change, traffic patterns change, and we really want to be on top of optimizing these intersections, not only for things that may have changed over the years, but also as the times of day for peak use start changing. So hopefully as we do the 95 intersections that are planned for this year, you'll start seeing some different traffic patterns, and some of them sometimes will be you might be waiting at an intersection a little longer than you're used to. What you'll notice is when you get on that major road, I'll use McCarran as an example, you might be able to catch more green lights. So there is always a trade-off in terms of the timing of intersections, but the idea is to move as many people as quickly as possible. And so hopefully you'll see that in some of the improvements we do at the traffic signal level. Of particular importance is we will be working this year on Pyramid Highway. So that'll be an area that we're focusing on in our analysis and working with your staff and NDOT staff to make sure we optimize the timing of those signals. In addition, we have a program that's our traffic management, and ITS stands for Intelligent Transportation System. This is a kind of the next leg of making sure we have a system that's smart and flexible and responsive to what actually is happening in the real world. These 2 projects, as you can see, are physical improvements that will be done in the city of Sparks, primarily related to putting fiber in so the signals are interconnected, and it gives us a better opportunity to make the adjustments that the community will benefit from. Some more traffic signal modifications. So you'll see here there's quite a list of signal or intersections where we'll be working with your staff again to modify the signals in this year's program. Again, it's designed to make the traffic flow smoother and accommodate what the demands are at those particular intersections, and also accommodate for the growth in vehicle traffic that we see year over year. We have a program called Traffic Engineering Spot Enhancements, and essentially what I would describe this as, we go into intersections where there's problems and we address those. Our links or our major roads are often many years out from the standpoint of when we can decide, or when we get them on our list and we start analyzing them until we actually get to construction. But these TE spots are projects that can move a little more quickly. They are provided, as you can see here, by fuel tax. So here's some improvements that we're going to be doing in your community. As you can see, Victorian and 16th, and then the RFBs, the rapid flashing beacons, typically installed for areas where there's concerns about pedestrian crossings. Here are the 3 streets that we'll be evaluating, working with your staff. As you can see, those hopefully will be in place by spring of next year. Another important T-Spot project that we're working on is El Rancho and Victorian. That project we're set to do in the winter of 2022 and will include looking at quite a few things, including updating the signal equipment at that intersection. So looking forward, a couple things that you'll be hearing from us. One of them is the interlocal cooperative agreement is the agreement between the City of Sparks and RTC that allows us to do the projects in your community. We've been evaluating those in terms of fine-tuning those to make sure that there's common understanding when we come into the City of Sparks to do a project, what that project entails, and what the expectations are from you as a council, us as an agency that serves you, and then also the community. So you're going to see a little bit more conversation about how we fine-tune that to make those agreements better for everybody involved. In addition, we're working regionally to look at bike and scooter share opportunities. I think we all know the electric bikes have been kind of a newer thing that's been added in terms of their use and where they may or may not be used on a roadway network. So this is something that, while ultimately each of the local jurisdictions are going to have to figure out how that goes or how they want to handle it, it is something that we're facilitating to look at a regional perspective on that. There's 2 groups that came out of the past legislative session I want to touch on very briefly. One of them is the Nevada Advisory Committee on Traffic Safety, and that's being led by NDOT to really look at the issue of safety across the state and what tools might be needed or what things can be done to enhance and improve safety for everybody in our transportation network. And then the second one, which is going to be very interesting, I think, when it's all said, is the Transportation Funding Study Advisory Working Group. And that one has multiple objectives from what I can tell. And again, that came out of the legislative session. From our standpoint as RTC, the main thing that we're sitting at the table in that conversation is, I'm going to show you here in a second with a slide, the concern about as we move to non-traditional fuel sources that don't pay the fuel tax, we still have the roads to maintain, we still have the roads to build. So we're going to have to figure out, working with the state, how we fund that if in fact fuel consumption goes down. In addition, there's interest in how we transition to electric vehicles. There's also a desire to talk about transit. So it's a pretty all-encompassing conversation. But I did want to touch with my last slide on an issue that may be coming our way. So what we've done here, and this is definitely not something to take as a truism, but more an analysis of what the future could hold. We started in FY20 in terms of what we actually saw in fuel tax revenue. Not surprisingly, during the pandemic, there was a drop-off for a period of time. It's actually come back up, but we are basically flat year over year. Up until the pandemic, it was pretty typical for us to have a significant increase year over year in terms of fuel tax revenues. Probably the same thing you saw in terms of the money that you have locally here. But as a result of the pandemic and possibly some of the changes in the way people drive, the revenues were flat. What we've done in this chart is we look forward in the governor's objectives in terms of reducing or changing the fleet from internal combustion to electric or alternative fuels. You can see what would happen if that happens and there's not a replacement in revenue. In other words, not only are we flat for that initial period, but the revenues start going down as people stop or people consume much less in terms of fuel, not only because they may have alternative fuel vehicles, but also as vehicles become more efficient. So not a scare chart, just an awareness that that could be on the horizon and certainly will influence our ability to continue to do the projects as I mentioned to you today. So with that, I will conclude and certainly try to answer myself, Brian, and Dan, any questions you might have.
Question from the council? Must have done a really good job.
The mask, when I had the green mask, I
there.
knew I was gold.
Hey, thank you for being here. Always good to see you guys in the house. When you talk about this right here, the fuel consumption forecast, so obviously this affects roads and all those things. What do you guys see as a potential of, as we watch this thing unfold, I see where this seems, the wisdom of the day says this is accurate. So what can we do as particular as a city, something for us to think about? I mean, is it just really paying attention to legislation when it comes to other ways to replace that tax for our roads, or do you have any ideas? Is my question.
Well, the immediate issue that's in front of this committee, which will be advising the legislature on what to do, is a conversation about a user fee or a user charge, for example, with electric vehicles. To be honest with you, I think there's some concern from those in the electric vehicle industry that this is an up-and-coming industry that potentially could be harmed in terms of people choosing those vehicles if the fees were too high. So I think that's one of the concerns that has to be worked through, is how do you transition to a new type of technology and not discourage it. Certainly from our standpoint, we see a need that exists and a need that's growing, and our starting point is don't do any harm to us. So in other words, whatever comes out of this working group, we would like to see the revenue sources, best case, remain the same, or I should say worst case remain the same, best case that there actually is more money to be able to meet the needs as the community grows. But other than that fee, I'm not really sure how it's going to come out. It could be a statewide fee that's set by the DMV and that they would collect, for example, on registration. It could be something that's pushed down to local governments to figure out how they want to charge it. Certainly, we will be sharing with each of you and our board any updates that come out of this working group in terms of where things might go. Any change that happens is going to happen during the legislative session, the next session. So certainly there'll be a lot of lead time for you as a city and for the city of Reno and Washoe County to determine how best to respond to that in terms of what the legislature may or may not do with the report as it comes out.
Anyone else? Okay. Thank you, Bill.
Thank you.
Appreciate it.
You're welcome.
Okay. Now we'll move on to consent items. Anyone wishing to pull a consent item? Ms. Vanderwell.
I move to approve consent items 8.1 through 8.2 as submitted.
Mr. Abbott.
Second.
We got a motion and a second. Any further discussion? Seeing none, please vote. Motion carries unanimously. 9.1, consideration, discussion, and possible direction of the city manager to prepare an ordinance to redistrict city council ward boundaries in accordance with the proposed ward map number 3. Mr. Rundle, Mr. Ornelas.
Good afternoon, Mayor Lawson, members of the Sparks City Council. I am Armando Ornelas, the Community Services Director, and with me is Jim Rundle, City Planner, and we are going to tag team this presentation for you. It's a little on the lengthy side, so we figured we'd switch off so that maybe it makes it a little easier to stay with us. So let's start with why redistrict. The city charter requires that the city council or the city be divided into 5 wards, each as nearly equal in population as can conveniently be provided. So 5 wards, equal population to the extent possible. Ward boundaries must be changed whenever the U.S. Census shows that the population in any one ward exceeds the population in any other ward by more than 5%. So the city has received the results of the 2020 decennial census, and when the population is allocated by ward, the data tells us that we need to redistrict.
Thank you, Armando. Jim Rundle, City Planner. This table is something else to me. When we've worked here for a long time, a lot of you have been here for a long time, and we see that there's been a 19% increase since 2010, an increase of 17,388 people. And as the 2020 census reports, the city of Sparks is 108,445 people. This is the population difference by ward. As Armando said, the population of the wards from between Ward 1 through Ward 5 exceeds the 5% as outlined in our codes. I'm going to point to the biggest differences between Ward 5 and Ward 2. Ward 2 at 19,884 people is 24.6% smaller than Ward 5. Ward 5, therefore, is 19.8% bigger than Ward 2. So there is quite the difference between Ward 2 and Ward 5 in terms of population in 2020.
Okay, so we know that we have to redistrict. So what are the criteria for doing so? Pursuant to the Sparks Municipal Code, Chapter 2, ward boundaries must include the block in which the council person resides in for that ward. In other words, when we redistrict, we cannot redistrict anyone out of their ward. Ward boundaries must be contiguous, and wherever possible, ward boundaries shall follow arterials or other major streets. Further considerations come by way of the Federal Voting Rights Act, which prohibits using redistricting to dilute the voting power of ethnic and racial minorities. And in addition, U.S. Supreme Court case law holds that jurisdiction should rely primarily on traditional redistricting principles such as compactness, contiguity, and respect for political subdivisions or shared interest communities. So as an example of a shared interest community, for example, if you had the Sparks Indian Colony, if it was within, the city of Sparks, that principle would hold that we keep them within one ward. Racial and ethnic considerations generally should not be the predominant factor in drawing ward lines, but they can be one of many factors, especially if we were trying to avoid voter dilution.
As Armando touched on earlier, the city staff has developed 3 proposed ward maps. All of the ward maps meet the criteria as Armando has outlined. All the members remained inside of their ward. We attempted to utilize major arterials, sometimes subdivided by plan developments. And we've balanced all of those wards to be within 5% of each other. Now, developing a 4th alternative, for example, is not impossible, potentially is not impossible, but would be very difficult. Here is the existing ward districts as they are today. Point out a few of the major arterials between wards 1 and 2, Greenbrae. Between 1 and 3, McCarran. We have between 4 and 3, South Los Altos. Vista Boulevard separating a majority of Ward 4 and Ward 5, with Pioneer Meadows in Ward 5 and Stonebrook currently in Ward 4. Over to Ward 5 and Ward 2, Galleria Parkway, separated by McCarran, and then kind of like North Truckee Lane extended up to Disc Drive there. These are the citywide demographics that we found through the information that came to us from the census. White alone citywide race was 59% white alone, 3% for Black or African American, 2% for American Indian and Alaskan Native, 7% for Asian alone, 1% Native Hawaiian or other islander alone, some other race identified at 15%, and then 14% with population of 2 or more races. Whereas currently, the city identifies 30% Hispanic or Latino and 70% non-Hispanic or Latino.
Okay, we are now going to walk through each of the three proposed ward map alternatives. We're going to describe what the changes in the boundaries are, and then we are going to talk about the changes in population when we compare the existing to the alternatives. The slide on your screen now is for proposed map number 1. Some of the key changes are extending the eastern boundary of Ward 1 further to the east over to Sparks Boulevard. The eastern boundary for Ward 2 would extend east to Howard Drive. The southern boundary for Ward 4 would shift northward, basically up to Vista, and the southern boundary, I'm sorry, that was previously for Ward 4. The southern boundary would shift north to Vista Boulevard, and for Ward 5, the southern boundary shifts north to Berrien Boulevard. These tables, and there's going to be one for each of the three options that, in terms of the maps, show the increase or decrease in population when we compare this particular alternative to the existing ward map. So the second column from the right, that shows you the absolute change in population. Wards 1, 2, and 3 would increase in population by 1,037, 1,694, and 347 persons respectively, while the population of Wards 4 and 5 per proposed map 1 would decrease by 388 persons for Ward 4 and by 2,690 persons for Ward 5. So that gives you some sense of the magnitude of the changes per proposed map number 1.
On proposed map number 2, some of the key changes are Ward 1 includes East Green Bay to Prater Way. Ward 2 extends east to Spanish Springs Road, so in this area. Ward 4, as the southern boundary, shifts north of Vista Boulevard. And let's see, Ward 5, southern boundary shifts north to McCarran in this area here, north to McCarran and Howard. So it comes into this area right down in here. And the table showing the population, again, 4 and 5 need to be reduced in population. 1 would increase with 1,065. Ward 2 would increase by 1,334 people. Ward 3, 628. Ward 4, reduction of 388 people. And Ward 5, a reduction of 2,639 people. This is proposed map number 3. Ward 1 extends east to Sparks Boulevard, so encompassing the marina. Ward 2 shifts south to Queen Way and west to Probasco Way. So Probasco here. And Ward 3 extends west to Probasco. Ward 3 begins to take in, or is proposed to take in this area in here. And Ward 5 goes east to Vista up in here. And also Ward 5 encompasses the Stonebrook area, which is currently in Ward 4. Here's the population matrix for the proposed map 3. It increases Ward 1 by 912 people, increases Ward 2 by 1,641, Ward 3 by 432. Ward 4 takes a huge hit with an increase or an increase of 1 person. Ward 5 would lose 2,986 people.
All right, we will now move on and we'll review with you race and ethnicity data for each ward. The following pie charts compare the existing wards to each of the alternatives. In general, the existing is in the upper left-hand corner, and then to the right of that is alternative 1, and then in the lower left-hand corner is alternative 2, and then alternative 3 in the lower right-hand corner. So again, this pie chart here is for Ward 1, And really what it shows here is that the differences in this chart, like in all the others, are relatively small. The most noteworthy difference is the decrease in the percentage of the population that identified as some other race alone, which is shown in green, and that's a 25% in existing Ward 1, and that would be lowered to 21% in alternative 3. So that 4% difference is the largest single difference in this particular alternative with regards to race for Ward 1. In terms of ethnicity, and again, ethnicity is divided into two categories, folks who identify as Hispanic or Latino and those who do not. Folks who do identify as Hispanic or Latino are shown in orange on these charts, and those who do not are shown in blue. In this case, the most notable difference is a 5% reduction in the Hispanic Latino population in alternative 3 relative to the existing map. Okay, moving on to Ward 2. The differences here are even smaller, with a 2% swing in terms of the population that identifies as some other race alone, again shown in the green, increasing from 26% in the existing wards to 28% in alternative 3. There's a corresponding reduction in the percentage of the population of 2 points that identify as white alone. That 2% difference essentially carries over into the ethnicity breakdown for this alternative for Ward 2, where the population increases by 2%. Those that identify as Hispanic or Latino from 2% in the existing to the alternative 3, 2% reduction in alternative 2. So again, 2% difference is the biggest difference there.
Similarly, in the Ward 3, existing race, alternative 1, sees a 2% change between the maximum of a 2% between 66 and 64. If you go between existing and alternative 3, you see a 3% between white only in the proposed alternative 3. The rest are less percentages, and then the difference between existing and alternative 2 are very, very similar, if not the same. Population by ethnicity in Ward 3, again, very similar numbers, a 2% change between existing and alternative 1, and 3% between existing Ward 3 and, alternative 3, and then between Ward 3 existing and alternative 2, you'll find that the numbers are the same. This is population by race for Ward 4. Ward 4, very, very similar numbers. A very small difference between existing Ward 4 and proposed alternative 3. A 1% change between the white only from 75 to 74. The rest of the numbers between alternative 1 and alternative 2 are very, very similar. This is the population by ethnicity for Ward 4. Now, Council Member Bybee, you may remember this looks a little different from what was proposed or what was displayed at our neighborhood meeting at Sparks High School. Councilmember Abbott, you attended that meeting. You asked for directions on how to get to Sparks High School, but we were able to see you there. We did have a mistake. Staff had a mistake. We had it correct in the matrix, but it did not come across correctly on the display that you're seeing here. We have corrected that, and Councilmember Bybee wanted to point that out, make sure that you were seeing that existing Ward 4 is identified 16% Hispanic or Latino, 84% non-Hispanic or Latino, and you see through all 3 alternatives, those carry through with the same results as what is currently existing in Ward 4. Moving on to Ward 5, population by race. A 3% difference between existing wards and alternative 1 was a 3% increase. It was the maximum of white alone, 13 to 14 for a population of 2 or more races. In the difference between existing Ward 5 and alternative 3 is a small 2% change, 62 to 64. The rest of the numbers very similar, no more than 2%. And then the difference between existing Ward 5 and alternative 2 for Ward 5 is just a 1%, very slight change between the white only. The others are very, very close, with Asian alone also seeing a 1% difference. And now the ethnicity for Ward 5. You'll find that there is a minor 3% change, the difference between alternative 1 and the current ward, and a 3% difference between alternative 3 and the existing. Whereas alternative 2 is the exact same as the existing. As we were just touching on, we conducted 3 meetings with the public to solicit input on the ward boundary alternatives. Those meetings were held October 12th, 13th, and 14th. We had one at Sparks High School. We hosted one at Alf Sorensen, and then we hosted one digitally through the Zoom application so that anyone could attend from anywhere, for that matter, as long as they had computer access. Through those 3 meetings, there were 5 attendees. We received 2 emails. One of the emails was requesting that we put the information in Spanish on the website, which through Julie Duell and her team, we were able to get that on our website in both English and Spanish. We included on the website presentation the data you're seeing today, the current and proposed ward boundary maps, the demographic data as well. And lastly, on the 14th, we conducted the presentation via Zoom. We recorded that presentation and we put that presentation on the website. So if you were not able to watch the presentation live, you could go and watch it this afternoon if you'd like to, or on your time, and be able to still provide input to the Sparks City Council. We included the email. It's still live. It's still working. You can still put that information and have it come to us. And again, we received just the 2 emails, and one of them requesting that information to be put in Spanish.
Okay, so Jim and I have now reviewed with you the criteria for redistricting and information on the differences in terms of the boundaries, the population, and the demographics for both the existing and 3 proposed ward maps. I'm now going to discuss with you staff's analysis of the alternatives and provide you a recommendation from staff. First and foremost, all 3 of the proposed ward maps comply with the SMC criteria, again to review, of maintaining the incumbent in the ward, contiguity, and using arterials and other major streets for boundaries to the extent possible. So in a nutshell, you may choose any of the alternatives and comply with these criteria. In staff's view, proposed map 3 offers the most compact wards and the easiest to follow boundaries, while proposed map 1 ranks a close second in this regard. And lastly, proposed 2 we view as the least efficient in this sense, primarily because at its southern boundary, Ward 5 really creates some confusion in terms of what ward you may be in, just because of how it necks down. In terms of the Voting Rights Act and other case law, again, just very quickly to review, they prohibit the use of redistricting to dilute the voting power of racial and ethnic minorities, hold that race and ethnicity consideration should not be the predominant factor, and that municipalities and others that are redistricting should rely on traditional principles. In staff's view, none of the proposed ward maps would markedly change the racial or ethnic composition of the wards. For example, none of the ward maps tip the population from having a majority that is a racial and ethnic majority, we don't have any of those, to a minority. And so, or vice versa. So in that regard, there's not a substantive material change in that regard. We do not see any material dilution of the voting power of racial or ethnic majorities. The single largest difference was that 5% drop in Ward 1 for the percentage of the population that identifies as Hispanic or Latino. And I think one of the things we've learned after the 2020 election is that there's a lot of diversity in terms of Hispanic Latinos and their voting preferences. So for those reasons, we don't see that 5% as significant. So based on that analysis, staff's view is that we should fall back to the traditional redistricting principles and focus on the SMC redistricting criteria and the traditional redistricting principles of compactness and contiguity. And for these reasons, then, staff is recommending that the City Council direct the City Manager to prepare an ordinance to redistrict the City Council ward boundaries in accordance with proposed map number 3. And if the Council does so, then you would conduct the first reading of the ordinance on November 8th, and you could review, consider, conduct a public hearing, and adopt the proposed ward map on November 22nd, 2021. So that concludes our presentation, and we are available to answer any questions, and we can certainly go back to the maps if you'd like to see the maps again or any of the other information that we
Question from the
presented.
council, Mr. Anderson.
I want to thank staff. You guys did an awesome job putting out the different options, laying everything out for us, as well as the public meetings. They weren't well attended, but we did the right thing for opening it up to the conversation. I just have to say, as far as I understand where you guys are going with the option 3, but I'm very much opposed to that one for the reason that I realize I didn't make it convenient by being right at the edge of the boundary, but losing a good portion of my own HOA, I'm strongly opposed to that. So that is not the option that I choose. And out of 1 or 2, I would have to say the only public comment that I heard, I'm in agreement with that I propose option 2. So thank you.
Anyone else? Ms. Bybee.
Yeah, I also would like to echo my thanks for all the hard work both of you did, your staff, the wizards in GIS mapping that did all the computer, taking those census data blocks of population, because it's kind of funny when I first looked at the maps and I looked at like Ward 1 and 2, which are smaller geographically, and when the lines didn't move that much to get us in equal, to balance our size, it didn't make sense to me till you explained that those are much more dense areas. And when you look at it all, if you could look at it really closely, it's all the little census blocks are much more compact and higher density. So the higher density then explained why geographically the maps don't look like they balance at all, because the population is spread out more in Ward 4 and 5 especially. And so that was something I learned, and I appreciate the amount of time and effort that it took to do this, and that the racial and ethnic pie charts, really easy to follow, really easy to look at, and to really kind of be amazed at how all 3 proposals would keep us pretty balanced on that. I agree with Councilman Anderson on option 3, because it's a tougher one, because he and I are both a couple blocks away from each other. So you have 2 council members who live really close to each other, unlike the other 3 council members. So literally, my ward starts the street right behind him, literally. So, and you can't move. We obviously are not moving, and I guess I would be. Yeah, we're not going to move. So we're.
You're not moving to California?
No. Not in my lifetime. But I think I would feel much like Councilman Anderson does, that if you kept like my house in my ward and you were taking some of my neighborhood away, would be a problem for me. And I know the HOAs, and we briefly discussed in the beginning, keeping HOAs together, if you could, made sense. So when I look at that Ward 3, that all of a sudden takes this chunk out of his ward and gives it to me in exchange for Stonebrook, my ward losing Stonebrook, I don't agree with that. And mostly because I agree with Councilman Anderson, and I would want to keep my neighborhood in my ward as well. Ward 1, the one, proposal 1 or 2 for my ward and my preferences really kind of look equal to me, but I do support staff in looking at how it does look a little funky, in the bottom of Ward 5, when you're looking at a map and figuring out what ward you're going to be in. So my preference is for option 1, and I do thank you guys all for your work. Thank you.
Mr. Dare.
Thank you again. I know this is quite a bit of fun putting all this together, and so everyone has different things. One of the questions I have, you guys talked about shared value, or whatever the word you used when it came to looking at this. Are HOAs a part of that? Because it seems like it should be. That's a group that have a shared value in what they do, and is that not part of that equation?
No, that's not part of the input that we have access to when we're drawing those.
Gotcha.
And I would say, Councilmember Dare, that it's not a traditional redistricting, community, if you will, but, I think there's some latitude here. I mean, I think I prefaced my comments about the staff analysis by noting that we've provided you with 3 alternatives. They all comply with the redistricting criteria in SMC Chapter 2. So, there's lots of flexibility here with regard to these 3 particular alternatives. We simply, looked at it through our lens and made a recommendation. But
for me, I'm just glad I live in the middle of my ward. There's no way. I'm just kidding. I'm just kidding. No, I would say, I like Ward 3 because of the clean lines. I think that is something that helps. However, at the same note, I don't have a preference typically on which one. It's just, I think they're all a good option, and I think it's just an awesome problem to have. We've grown 20% in 10 years almost. That's amazing, and to think of the future. So I think it's an awesome problem to have, and what we're trying to look at. I know we definitely do our best as a city to work together, and I know that's going to continue to happen. So anyway, with that said, I thank you for your hard work, and I can tell you I'm open to any of them.
Mr. Abbott.
Yeah, definitely thank you guys for your hard work. I think it's been pretty exciting to look at something that, only happens every 10 years. And, we're really setting history right here of, laying out some maps. There's people that are in these maps that may want to run for office, and we are setting that. So it's pretty cool. As much as I would love to have the Marina and Legends in my ward, I think it does line up saying, with option 2 for myself, I like keeping Greenbrae. I understand that Audie is I would say more of an arterial than Greenbrae is, but I don't know, that area is just, it wouldn't line up, I don't think, with the marina and all the commercial, all the industrial. Like, I'd have everything down there, which I do like both of us, or 2 different council people representing the industrial part of our town instead of just one. And so that's where I'm at. I like option 2. And that's all I got.
Okay. Ms. Vanderwell, we haven't heard from you yet.
Well, since I'm new to this, I live in the center of my ward, I can pretty much go with option 1 or 2, so.
Okay, well, with that being said, we need a motion.
Sorry, I
with an
apologize, it's 2 or 3, I apologize. I was looking up stuff.
Mr. Kreutz, we're looking for a motion on a particular map.
Ideally, yes. We hope that you will pick one of the 3 options we have prepared for you. That said, I am obliged to let you know you are not locked into any of those 3. If you want us to get into some additional work, if you want to give us direction, hey, go look at moving this line here, we will do that work for you. That's absolutely on the table here today, but I do want to caveat that and say that work, would take a matter of weeks, and refresh your memories that we are trying to assist the registrar of voters in having enough time to draw the precinct boundaries, that all of that work can be done prior to any of the filing periods opening up after the first of the year. So time is a bit of the essence. So it is absolutely our preference that you pick one of the three. You heard staff's reasoning on why option 3 was our preferred option to put in front of you. But as Armando has now said a couple of times, all three work. You tell us what you want to do, and we'll bring it back to you in a first reading and a second reading next month.
So let's work backwards. What's the date we have to have a redistricting done for the registrar?
We are striving to be done in the month of November. So we want to, that's why we want to have the first reading on November 8th and the public hearing, the second reading and public hearing, and your formal action taken at our meeting on the 22nd.
That's a matter of like 2 weeks from now.
Yes. So we really want to walk out of here today with, we like option blank. Fill in the blank and tell us which one to go with.
All right, Mr. Abbott?
I'll take a shoot my shot for motion, if that's okay.
Let's take a shot at a motion and see what we come up with.
I'll go with map 2 as my recommendation. I don't know what you want me to read or, oh, right there. I move direct city manager to prepare an ordinance to redistrict city council ward boundaries in accordance with proposed ward map 2.
Mr. Anderson?
I will second the motion.
Okay, I got a motion and a second. Any further discussion? Seeing none, please vote. Okay, well, looks like it passes 4-1. Map 2 it is.
Thank you very much.
Wow.
I was just trying to support staff.
Support you guys still, I promise.
Yes,
Mayor Lawson, if I
please.
may take one moment. This was a lot of work in a short period of time, and so I really want to thank some individuals by name. Julie Dool was invaluable in making sure that all this information got up on our website. Nicholas Connolly, of course, did the heavy lifting on the GIS side. Casey Martinez and Jolene Rees provided a lot of administrative support, and Brendan Sendall assisted us from the city attorney's office. And then, of course, ACM Martini and City Manager Kreutz were very involved in the process as well. So it was obviously a lot of effort, but a team effort.
This is a lot of effort, and I remember going through it in 2010, and it's just, it's not easy. I'm trying to, you move one neighborhood and all of a sudden the numbers change big. It's an amazing work. So thank you again.
Thank you.
All right, so we got moving on to item 9.2. Consideration, discussion, of possible approval of a resolution number 3394, a resolution requesting participation in the American Association of Retired Persons Network of Age-Friendly Communities. Mr. Martini.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Members of the council, John Martini, your Assistant City Manager. Can I have some help, Julie, on my present? I don't see it.
Oh, it looks like somebody closed you out, maybe.
Oh, well, there it was, right at the bottom.
You want a slideshow?
Yeah, just go right to slideshow for me.
There you go.
Thank you, Julie.
Did you move me out of my ward?
No, you're still in your ward.
I'm still in my ward.
Sorry for the delay, Mr. Mayor. Before I begin my presentation, I need to apologize to you, Mr. Mayor, and members of the council, and it turns out to the AARP. I guess I'm getting old. I always thought AARP stands for American Association of Retired Persons, which you will see noted throughout my presentation in the staff report, in the resolution. Last week, I got a text from Council Member Abbott, who had been speaking with Mr. Gold down in Las Vegas. It turns out they are no longer the American Association of Retired Persons, and they haven't been for 12 years. They are simply the AARP. So with that, my apologies, and to the council and also to the AARP. So I'm here before you today for you to consider a resolution for the city of Sparks to join the AARP network of age-friendly communities. A little bit of background before we kind of dive into what this network is. The Sparks Senior Citizens Advisory Committee, and I think we have quite a few of the members here today, received a presentation from the AARP. I'm really glad I went with the acronym in my presentation and not the word. On February 24th, 2021, our committee really kind of liked what they heard. They asked for staff to kind of dive into this and look into it and come back and report to them on what the benefits of the program are, what their role in this program could be, how do we join, all the particulars. Councilman Abbott and I spent a little time together looking through the program. We came back on August 25th and kind of ran them through it. Included as a core to what this network is something called the domains of livability, which we'll cover here in a minute. After that presentation, our Senior Citizens Advisory Committee unanimously forwarded a recommendation to you all to join the AARP network of age-friendly communities. So what is the network? It is really a global network. Lots of members here in the United States, but there are members outside of North America who focuses on how do we make our communities more age-friendly. It is really a quality of life issue. It is not focused on just elder-friendly, but age-friendly policies and criteria across the board for all ages. These are the 8 domains of livability that I mentioned earlier that are core to the network's program. So to really dive into our community and understand how we make ourselves more age-friendly, AARP built this core value system to be studied for outreach into the community with specific questions on how to make things better. They include our outdoor spaces and buildings, our transportation network, communication and information, civic participation and employment, respect and social inclusion, health services and community supports, social participation. Now, as I spoke with the AARP on kind of how this network works, they strongly recommended that you don't try and do all 8 at once. So one of the topics that we brought up at the August 25th meeting was to ask the Senior Citizens Advisory Committee, where would you like to start? It's recommended that you pick up to 3. 2 is a great place to start. The committee really had a lot of energy around communication and information, ways to reach out to our population. I think this one does lend towards our older generation. I think lessons learned from the COVID outbreak was all the information seemed to be, go to this website, get on your smartphone. Well, that really didn't work for everybody. So I believe Julie Duell worked with the committee to create some newsletters to get information out on where to get help, where to get shots. They want to focus on ways of looking into our community to improve communication and information. And then the other area that they want to get started with is health services and community supports. My interpretation of that conversation is kind of go together. It just so happens that day there was a presentation at the same time that I gave this one on Medicaid and Medicare. So communication on where to get health services is kind of a really good focus to get started with. And I do want to mention, and I included it in the mayor's letter of commitment, there was also energy around our outdoor spaces and buildings, how to make our outdoor environment more age-friendly from children all the way up to our elderly. So why should we join the network? In very simple terms, it just is a simple statement that we are committed to working with our residents to make Sparks an age-friendly community. It's really that simple. We're joining a network where that is the focus. What are the benefits of joining? There are many. I highlighted kind of the big 4 here. We do get recognition for committing to becoming age-friendly from the network. Resources for identifying and assessing the community needs will be made available to us through the AARP. We'll have access to technical assistance and experts, people who have done this in other communities across our nation, North America, and actually the globe. And then there's a lot of program support and best practice materials that AARP can provide. So how do we join? It's really pretty simple. There's a complete an application. It's online. I included it as an attachment to the staff report. It's not robust. It is not a big undertaking. We'll fill it out very quickly. We need to attach a letter of commitment signed by the mayor and attach the resolution if it's approved here today. I do want to let the council know that it's not a requirement of the AARP that you pass this resolution, but as a matter of policy, it is our practice that when we have energy and actually a strong unanimous recommendation from one of our appointed committees, that then it is reviewed by this council, meaning staff just doesn't run out and apply because we think it's a good idea. We bring it to basically our board of directors for a decision. What's the role of our Spark Senior Citizens Advisory Committee? What role will they play? They will be the champion of this program. They'll conduct a community needs assessment with help from AARP. I stress with help from AARP. They know how to get this done, and they'll help us get it done. They'll recommend an action plan based on the results of that assessment. They'll implement and work towards the goal of the plan, share results with the AARP. That's super important. One really neat thing about this network is all information and activities are shared. So if you're struggling with something, you can reach into the network and say, hey, have you dealt with this? What worked? What didn't work? That's one of the really big benefits and something I think our Senior Citizens Advisory Committee can really enjoy. They'll access the plan or assess the plan's impact and submit progress reports. Those reports could come to you as reports of action. They'll certainly be shared with AARP. Actually, it's a requirement that they share them with AARP. And I think, in closing, I think the really neat part of this is this will provide an opportunity, this program, this work that they'll do through the network, for our Senior Citizens Advisory Committee to recommend policy level decisions. It could be changing something in our comprehensive plan that will make our policy more open to being age friendly. Potentially, particularly when you look at outdoor spaces, there could be recommendations for additional spending in the CIP to make our parks and open spaces better. There could be a request for new forms of communication to get back to that information sharing that they want to get started with. It's a real nice opportunity for them to really get involved and provide recommendations up to the city council. That's my presentation. I'll be happy to answer any questions if you have any.
Question from the council. Ms. Bybee.
John, thank you for the report, and I was at the Senior Citizens Advisory Committee when that presentation was made, and super excited. I think it's an amazing opportunity. Sparks has always been known as family-friendly and business-friendly, and really focusing on families, and I think this fits right in with being age-friendly. I love that the scope of it is focused on seniors, but not only, because it's age-friendly for everyone. So young families, teens, really looking across the board, but really for our Senior Citizens Advisory Committee, I love the fact because they're new and they have all of this incredible energy, which I know the spark that's sitting over there, along with some of the other ladies and gentlemen who are on that committee, have so much energy that we're actually really giving them something really meaningful to do as new as they are. Our feet are on the ground, and now this is like an incredible opportunity for them to really get out and make a difference in the community. And I see also providing recommendations to the city council and to the city on policy, on CIPs, on things that we're doing, and be that conduit with the community and with the council and working with AARP and sharing all those resources. So I'm excited to get going on this, and thank you so much for bringing it to us, and for the Senior Citizen Advisory Committee for all your work, and for what you will be doing should we pass this today. It's exciting.
Thank you.
Mr. Rabbit.
Yeah, it's awesome. It's super exciting to have a board that, is new. I think COVID hit, and then we kind of were fairly stagnant overall. And, we have a role now, which we've always had a role for the board, but now it's this next level, which is pretty cool to get our input from our seniors and get input from the senior center and just seniors as a whole. And just for everyone that I think you guys all know, but the communication and information, we're already kind of doing that. We have a senior newsletter we already do. We get it passed out to, I think there's 17 locations in Sparks. Each board member kind of picks 2 or 3 and drops them off. And so that's, I wouldn't say low-hanging fruit, but it was a step. We're already there. We're already doing something that we can do better on. And Mr. Martini mentioned about Julie doing the lovely newsletter for our seniors with COVID that everyone said, go to the website, and our seniors don't always do that. And so she made a great letter, or a great flyer with the numbers, and it lines up perfectly. And then Barry Gold was not able to make it, but he just wanted me to pass on that he enjoyed working with the city of Sparks. He appreciates the efforts from the senior board, the council, and the mayor as a whole. So excited.
All right, anyone else? Okay, normally I don't do this, but because this is for seniors, I'm gonna ask Ms. Clance if you wanna come up and speak. And before we, yep,
This one's easier, all right, before I fall over on lean into it a little bit. I'm Donna Clance. I have been involved with our age-friendly activity here in our county area for, wow, seems like 4 years. I'm a state volunteer for AARP Nevada. And one of my assignments has been to work on the age-friendly programs around the state. And we worked on creating the one that's been going on in Reno for the we're now in our 3rd year. And I would be the person right here in our own vicinity that's been coming to your Senior Citizen Advisory Committee and talking about age-friendly activities and what to do and how to proceed to get what I'm hoping is about to happen this afternoon, which is the council endorsing that move to become a member of the age-friendly network here in the United States. You'll be one of almost 600 cities, states, counties that are now doing this process. And AARP has a rich website that's full of ideas, ways to do all the steps, including the assessment, the community assessment of what Sparks folks think is important to do here in your town to make it more age-friendly. So there are ideas, there are other communities around the country that have been doing this, and we're actually part of a world organization of nearly 1,200 cities around the world that are engaged in this process. So it would be a great step for Sparks Council to take today to join the Age-Friendly Network and put the Sparks Advisory Committee, Senior Advisory Committee, to work on the steps. And I'll be here to help in any way I can, and the state office, Barry Gold, will also help connect us. I have to tell you that they send emails from Age Friendly at the national network every day, just about. There's something going on. You can go on a Zoom. Any of you could do that in the areas that you choose to work on here in Sparks. So it's very connected. There are so many places that are thinking about the same things that you would be thinking about here in Sparks that are there to help you, so you don't reinvent the wheel. You get some great ideas and can move forward with the resources that you have and the folks that you have here in the community. So anything I can do to help, I will do that. And thanks so much for considering this today.
Thank you. Anyone else in the public wishing to speak at this time? Seeing none, we'll bring it back. I'm looking for a motion. Mr. Abbott.
I move to approve resolution number 3394, requesting participation in the AARP network of age-friendly communities.
Ms. Bybee.
I second the motion.
We got a motion and a second. Any further discussion? Seeing none, please vote. By the, unbelievable. Passed unanimously. Our sixth councilman. All right, thank you, guys. Thank you to our senior citizens. It's a great undertaking at your new road you're going down here. I think it's going to be fun. All right, let's move on. Item 10, public hearing, we have none. Item 11, planning and zoning, we have none. Item 12.1, comments from the public. I don't have any speaking cards. Anyone, are you sure? You sure? Did you fill out a card? Come on up, Bill. It's good to see you back in chambers, Bill.
Don, thank you very much. Good job, too. Anyway, my name for the record is Bill Wagner, and I've got $500 in my pocket here that's burning a hole in it. And the other thing is, on North Los Altos, going up the top of the hill, please remind him that he owes us 4 lights for when he gets his project done. Okay? Good. That's it. Thank you.
Thanks, Bill. Anyone else in the public wishing to speak at this time? Okay, seeing none, we'll bring it back for the 12.2, announcements from the mayor, city council, and city manager. Anyone have any announcements? Mr. Kreutz.
Thank you, Mayor Lawson. I want to just take a couple of minutes and talk a bit about the weather we had over the weekend and the impacts that it's had on our city. And I want to start by giving it a little bit of context. In the 24-hour period that ran yesterday from 10 a.m. to today at 10 a.m., at the airport, we received just short of 2.7 inches of rain. That exceeds by a couple of tenths of an inch the amount that's recorded as the 100-year storm event. So we had greater than a 100-year storm pass over us in the last 24-hour period. As a result of that, we saw the depth in the Truckee River right across from the sewage treatment plant go up by about 10 and a half feet, peaking this morning at about 5 a.m. It's already come back down about 3.5 feet, but the context I'm trying to provide here is we had a substantial amount of water fall evenly all over our community. And now I want to go to the good works done by our public works maintenance staff. And it actually wasn't just over the weekend. It started months ago, because every summer our crews get out there and they clean the storm drains, they clean the ditches, they prepare us for the time of year when we get rains, for the time of year when historically we get floods, which quite often for us is that warm rain on a big heavy snowpack. Fortunately, we didn't have a big heavy snowpack. We just had a nice warm rain, but still we saw the river jump up by about 10 feet, and it was the work done by our public works maintenance folks under the leadership of Ron Corman that really helped us prepare. So it ended up, we had a relatively low amount of spot flooding that happened in our city over the weekend. We had a crew come in yesterday afternoon for just a couple of hours, and essentially we were seeing a few areas of spot flooding where leaves were jamming, a drop inlet, and the water just couldn't get in, so it would back up. Our crew would get out there, they'd get rid of the leaves, the water would go away. So they did a fantastic job in getting us ready for the season and then being incredibly responsive and timely to get ahead of these things before they became a problem. So our community largely came through this thing with flying colors. Now, there was an additional wrinkle in here that thankfully didn't pan out, and that's that there was some consideration in the forecast that it might get really cold in the middle of the night. So we were set up, we had a crew come in at 2 o'clock this morning to be ready for ice and snow operations. Now, thankfully, it didn't happen. It stayed relatively warm. I know there are some folks that had a little bit of snow at their house, but largely this was not a snow event. So we took that crew that we had here in the middle of the night anyway and got to work on doing some of the cleanup, because we do have leaves all over the place. We do have them impeding to some extent a lot of the drop inlets around town. So we're going to be spending weeks, if not months, getting out there and doing that work. They got a good jump start on it in the middle of the night, while most of the rest of us, we're still asleep. And then the last thing I want to mention is to recognize a significant investment that we made in the community, that you made in the community at the intersection of Prater and Vista, with that, in excess of $4.25 million storm drain lift station. That it seemed like Prater was torn up in front of the police department for months and months and months. We actually got a fair amount of people yelling at us that there wasn't anything going on, and somebody get on the contractor, damn it. Well, that system worked flawlessly and pumped in excess, I got to look at my notes because I want to make sure I get this right, in excess of 8,000 cubic feet of water fell into that basically big hole in the ground, and then we pumped it over the North Truckee drain. We filled and emptied that tank 10 times over that 24-hour period. And you did not see flooding in that intersection. So there is a $4 million investment that you made in our community, and we saw it go to work and perform flawlessly through this event. So long and short of the story is thank you very much to the Public Works maintenance crews. Thank you to the engineers and the planners who helped us get there. Thank you to you for making the investments in the community so that we can keep it safe when times like this come, because we had a 100-year storm event come through our community in the last 24 hours.
Pretty cool. Love it when a plan comes together, right? And Ron, thank you. Okay, Mr. Anderson.
Well, kind of along those lines, I wanted to talk a little bit about Public Works as well. So this last week, I received a couple emails, which is not uncommon. But in this case, they were actually both positive. One was from a gentleman that wanted to put a shout out to our Public Works team for the work that they're doing along the river and in their parks. They said that they have had their family out like they haven't done in many years to enjoy those facilities and just be out in the city of Sparks and seeing how clean it is and feeling safe. And then the second one was kind of along those lines too, but this was a gentleman that he and his kids go out fishing along the river here in Sparks. And for a while, they felt unsafe doing that and had stopped. So they're back at it again, and they too wanted to compliment the city of Sparks for the work that's being done to where now they can go enjoy what we have in our community. So I wanted to say thank you to that. You guys are doing an awesome job. We truly appreciate it.
Thank you. Ms. Spivey? You might.
Sorry for my out in the field this morning. Mr. Mayor, members of the council, Ron Corman, your Public Works Maintenance Manager. You know, I wouldn't be here and you guys wouldn't be, you know, saying praises today if it wasn't for the staff that I have here at the city. You know, those folks are awesome. You know, every one of them was sticking their arm up and saying, you know, what can I do to help? What can we do? And frankly, this is the first time in my tenure here that we had an impending storm coming, and I felt comfortable knowing that we were ready for it. To the point where I made that statement on the news the other day. And I was a little bit nervous over the weekend. I will be very frank with that. But that said, my predictions and my faith in staff all came together. And it's not just even my staff. It's a whole city organization that comes together to make this happen. Over the years, Mr. Cruz mentioned the investment that you folks approved for the intersection of Vista and Prater. Well, at the same time, you guys were investing in the equipment that my staff uses directly. A lot of money and some very expensive equipment. And that investment is part of why we came through this 100-year event this weekend with, to use Mr. Cruz's words, with flying colors. So really, the thanks goes to everybody. There was involvement from the police department. They were heavily involved over the weekend in giving us information as we needed it. Chief Reed's guys over at the fire department were working with us. You know, we just enjoy a city group of employees here that work together, and this is just, you know, so it's everybody's effort. It's not just mine. So thank you very much for your recognition. I had some of my guys here earlier. But frankly, they were the ones that were got up at midnight to be here at 2 o'clock in the morning, and they were dragging tail a little bit, so I let them go home. So thank you so much for your kind words. Thank you.
Ms. Spivey?
Thank you, Mr. Corman. I just had one shout out I wanted to give to Francine Burge and everyone in our special events group for Pumpkin Palooza this weekend. And unfortunately, it was supposed to be 2 days and they went to 1 day. And Saturday morning, when I looked at the forecast and when I was going to go over there, I was just thinking, there is no way I'm going over on Sunday. And when I saw that they had made the very wise decision, considering the forecast of how unsafe it would be and people wouldn't come and it just would not be the great event that it is, they very last minute consolidated it to 1 day. My husband and I went down and walked Victorian Avenue, and it was just to see the families, to see the costumes, to see all the pumpkin decorating and carving. The kids were loving all the games. They had the big swing thing, the bounce swing that was quite popular, and really to see that pumpkin wall come to fruition with the generator and the partnership with the generator to help people really carve some pretty cool pumpkins and then mount them, you know, by our amphitheater there. Great event, but really thanks to your crews who actually, you know, obviously your crews were out there too. Francine, everyone who put that together and the hard work for such a spectacular event despite our weather conditions. I think it still was a big hit, and I just want to thank everybody who put their time and effort into it. Growing event that I think the community loves.
And I got to tell you, I slept like a baby last
night. Good. That's the idea.
You didn't get a call?
I did not get a phone call, and I didn't even worry about getting a phone call. No, you know, in years past, this would be, all of us would be on high alert, because you just don't know what's going to happen. We could get a whole lot of water, we could get nothing. But we got a pretty good substantial, I mean, we're approaching almost 3 inches of rain in a 24-hour period, unheard of for us. So this was us planning for the future, the $40 million we invested in the North Truckee Drain, the lift station, all the improvements we've made along the river as far as letting the water in and out of the river so to prevent that. I mean, this has been a decade-long process, and it really paid off for us this weekend. So good job from everybody's standpoint. Yeah, it takes all of us. It's not just one person or one group. It's the whole city that makes this work, from our engineers to the folks out there doing the work. So thanks. Thanks to everyone.
Thank you very much.
All right, anyone else? Mr. Dare?
I just have one quick thing. It is Kindness Month. We are doing a big celebration, all that. That means go be nice to people, and that's our goal, the best we can. And have a great day. But truly, look around, see what's going on, and try to make a difference. Thanks.
Okay. There's no one else that wishes to speak. We are going to go to my favorite item, adjournment.
Okay, we'll start here in a second with the redevelopment agency meeting. Give us a minute to get the computers all up and running. Is everybody in? Okay, we good? Okay, looks good. I would like to call to order the Sparks Redevelopment Agency meeting of Monday, October 25th, 2021, with a roll call.
Chairperson Bybee?
Here.
Agency members Lawson?
Here.
Abbott?
Here.
Vanderwell?
Here.
Anderson?
Here.
Dare?
Here.
Chief Legal Officer Adams? Here. Chief Administrative Officer Kreutz?
Here.
We have a quorum. Thank you.
Thank you, Madam Clerk. Moving on to item 3, public comment. Do we have any public comment at the time? Seeing none, I'll close public comment. Move on to item number 4.1, approval of the agenda.
Move to approve.
I have a motion by agency member Lawson. Do I have a second? Second by agency member Dare.
Second.
Okay. Please vote. Motion carries unanimously. Okay, moving on to, when my computer moves on here. Okay. Item 5.1, minutes. Consideration and possible approval of the minutes of the Sparks Redevelopment Agency meeting for September 27th, 2021. Do I have any corrections, additions, or a motion to approve? Agency member Vanderwell?
I move to approve the minutes of the Sparks Redevelopment Agency meeting for September 27th, 2021.
Agency member Lawson?
Second.
I have a motion and a second. Any more discussion? Please vote. Motion carries unanimously. Moving on to item 6.1, consideration and possible acceptance of the report of the claims and bills approved for payment and appropriation transfers for the period of September 10th, 2021 through October 12th, 2021. Do I have a motion to approve? Agency member Vanderwell?
I move to accept the report of claims and bills and the appropriation transfers for the period of September 10th, 2021 through October 12th, 2021.
And do I have a second? Agency member Anderson?
Second.
So I have a motion and a second. With no other discussion, please vote. Motion carries unanimously. Moving on, item number 8.1, comments from the public. Do I have any comments from the public? Seeing none, I'll close item 8.1. 8.2, announcements from the agency and Chief Administrative Officer. Any announcements? Seeing no announcements, I will call my favorite motion to adjourn. We are adjourned.